Just in time, I said. Who did that, Pete? So I'd like to bring this meeting of Forward Pinellas to order. And without further ado, we will, what, do you want to? Tina, do we have a quorum, correct? Do we need to do roll?
Yes, ma'am, we have a quorum. It's time to stand for the invocation and pledge.
Okay.
And Councilmember Muhammad will offer the invocation today.
Thank you. In the name of the one true God who is known by many names, we beseech your help and ask your mercy. Dear Lord, as we gather here today, we invoke the spirit of unity and progress, harmony and advancement, as we pursue the purpose of this august body and seek to bring people together to create a better future. Dear Lord, we recognize the importance of partnership, collaboration, and cooperation in achieving our shared goals and aspirations. So we ask that you allow us to be steadfast in our commitment to these principles as we work to build bridges between diverse communities, stakeholders, and decision makers. Please allow us to demonstrate our dedication and willingness to create a space for dialogue, consensus building, and take actions that lead to tangible improvements in our quality of life. Dear Lord, we invoke the spirit of inclusivity and creativity and innovation and resilience as we strive to lead the way in addressing the challenges facing our region and to be in the forefront of developing innovative solutions to help us navigate these complex issues. And finally, Lord, we would like to invoke the spirit of gratitude and appreciation as we recognize the incredible contributions of the dedicated staff, board members, and partners. Bless those in our state, federal, county, and city governments. Bless the non-affiliated super voters and grassroots community organizers who care enough to show up, offer a word, and share a story. We're grateful to hear from everyone and their contributions, and we appreciate their support as we work to build a brighter future, more equitable and inclusive for all of ourselves, our families, and our communities. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right.
So we got recognitions.
We have recognitions.
David Will is a new board member.
Oh, we have a couple new board members that we want to recognize and introduce. Mayor Will.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, let's hope you're still saying that 6 months from now.
Not a problem.
All right.
Let's go around and do introductions.
And David, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commission.
Okay.
Mics, please.
Microphone.
Dave Albritton, Clearwater City Council.
Michael Smith, City of Largo Commission, Vice Chair.
Whit Blanton, Executive Director.
Julie?
Julie Ward Bajolski, Mayor of the Great City of Dunedin.
Brian Scott, Pinellas County Commissioner.
Brother John Muhammad, City Council Member for St. Petersburg, District 7.
Hattie Reed, Vice Mayor of City of Pinellas Park.
Richie Floyd, City Council Member, St. Petersburg, District 8.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Janet Long, Pinellas County Commission, District 1. Thank you for being here this afternoon. We have a lot of work to do, so let's get started.
I've got a recognition for Jared Austin of our staff.
Oh, okay. Whit has a recognition.
Jared, you'll come up and join me for a second. I'm going to write all over myself with this pen. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Jared Austin of our staff. Jared, it's amazing that you've been with us for 5 years, but I wanted to present this pen and this plaque and just let the board know that Jared is a principal planner for our agency. You've seen him as the Target Employment and Industrial Lands Project Manager. He is a special projects manager for the staff. And Jared has taken on a lot of interesting assignments over the last little bit, but he has really performed well. And he started out as an intern, and then he progressed through the ranks with our agency, and that's what we love to see, and we hope to keep you around for double digits at least on that.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to say thank you, and if you wanted to say anything to the board, feel free.
Well, thank you very much, Whit, and thank you to all our board members as well. I've loved working here. That's why I've been here for 5 years and hoping to do at least another 5 more. So thank you.
Okay, so now we are ready to move on to citizens to be heard. Tina?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have citizens to be heard today, and the first up is David Geddes Jr.
Okay. Good afternoon, David.
Hi, good afternoon. Good to see everyone. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live at 802 Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. Is Walt Disney a false front operation, a cover-up, a conflagrated business, kind of like this one? Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom sits on the headwaters to the Everglades, the Butler chain of lakes, Disney Springs, Spring Shed. Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom is the northernmost point, serving as headwaters to the Everglades watershed. Reverse engineering this watershed kingdom is methodically formulating its powers over the water supply, manipulating both cause and effect, using both inductive and deductive logic to manifest its internal operations, methodically using the physics of both time and measure. The magic of Disney in regards to the formulation of its powers over the resource of water has placed us on its merry-go-round while in its hold, spinning us around externally using this government to internally establish this government, using time to uniformly bankrupt the water supply as constituted in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, slowly eating us out of our subsistence as written in the Declaration of Independence, here to capture the water as written in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of this Constitution. Walt Disney is sitting on the most viable future water supply in the state. Disney is coveting the headwaters to the Everglades. It appears to me that our government is being infiltrated by a bunch of carnies in quest of political powers regarding water, undertaking government and gaining control over our water supply as based on the 14th Amendment. Federalist Paper number 79 states, in order to control man's will, you must first control his subsistence. Such carnies are attempting to capture the water supply and manifest their powers over our will, attempting to enslave the population as revealed in Federalist Paper number 54, to enslave us and to control our will. It will soon be self-evident as to why Disney has placed his Magic Kingdom where he did, methodically placing us on his merry-go-round of deception, placing us on a long train of perfidy and works of death as written in the Declaration of Independence, using water as its Second Amendment weapon of choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tina.
Madam Chair, next it's Vice Mayor Lunt from the city of Tarpon Springs.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor. Vice Mayor.
Good afternoon, Board, and thank you for allowing me to speak. One of the things I'd like to start off with is actually reading something into the record, a memo that was produced by our Mayor, Costa Valikiotis. He said, first, I wish to again thank the Forward Pinellas Council's decision to reconsider its voting reapportionment plan. Also, thank you for providing a copy of the new proposed plan alternatives ahead of time. I may not be present at the Forward Pinellas meeting before this item 7F is heard because of 2 schedule conflicts, but Vice Mayor Lunt will attend as well as other commissioners. In each case, please read this brief email into the record for that item. Given that the timing of the new proposals, we did not review the 3 alternatives with our City Commission. Consequently, I am not authorized to recommend one reapportionment alternative over another based on their merits per se. However, as you know, our commission had voted to seek a reconsideration of Forward Pinellas' original reapportionment plan for Tarpon Springs to have its own seat on the council. And given this circumstance, I can say that only alternative 2 seems to satisfy our request and would be welcomed by the city of Tarpon Springs. We very much appreciate the opportunity to be heard on this matter. Costa Vaticiotis, Mayor, City of Tarpon Springs. So I know it's not an action item today, it's a discussion item for reapportionment. I want to thank you again for actually doing that and reconsidering it. A couple of things that I just wanted to mention personally. Although we appreciate the representation that's been given to us by the City of Oldsmar and the City of Safety Harbor, this board is primarily looking at land use and transportation. From a geographical point of view, we don't share any major contiguous routes with Safety Harbor nor Oldsmar. However, they share both SR 580 and SR 586 and have a little more interplay there with how traffic and moving forward is going. The other thing I wanted to mention is, like, we're basically one of the largest gateways to Pasco County's population center of Newport Richey. There's 19,000 people there. That's as of 2021. It has more impact, I think, than Safety Harbor and Oldsmar does on our traffic patterns up US 19. So again, I'm for your consideration of allowing us to have a board seat, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, Madam Chair, is Laura Cannery.
Laura? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Board. My name is Laura Canary. I live at 2095 Fairlane Drive in Largo, and I have been a resident of Pinellas County my entire life. I'm a senior project manager with Inspire Placemaking Collective, and have proudly been serving as the project manager for our Forward Pinellas contract. Through this contract, we have recently helped 3 local jurisdictions through the Urban Design Services pilot program. Beginning with Oldsmar on the Tampa Road corridor, we did a public workshop / charrette. And then more recently, the city of Clearwater and their new North Greenwood CRA that they're proposing. We did some design charrette for the MLK Jr. Avenue corridor and did form-based code recommendations for the corridor. And then the last project that we're currently working on, and it's underway, is working with Lillman in the Lillman area and looking at form-based code recommendations in comparison to some site development. So we're working with Pinellas County, and that's the 3rd project under the pilot program. We have enjoyed this important and rewarding work. We have gotten great feedback from these communities, with one community recently reaching out to us to potentially add additional services with regard to the form-based code work. We have also received great feedback from Forward Pinellas staff and haven't received any negative feedback or constructive criticism based on the work or services that we've provided. We were surprised and disappointed that we were not included on the recommendation for award list that you have in front of you. We were ranked number 10, but understand that there were some tied scores. We have a unique interdisciplinary practice. We have deep experience specializing in redevelopment in particular, which we know is much needed in Pinellas County. If given the opportunity, we would love to continue to advance these important planning efforts throughout the county and working with Forward Pinellas. We respectively request that you include both Tool Design Group, ranked number 9 with a score of 3886.25, and Inspire Placemaking Collective, ranked number 10 with a score of 3865, along with the staff's list that's in front of you in your motion for award. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, members?
Just to clarify, this is an item on consent.
Questions? No? All right.
There are no additional citizens to be heard, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right.
Tina, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we want to say anything about the emails that we've received? Should I at least address that?
You can address it now or whenever you take it up under the director's report. That's up to you.
Well, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I do want to let the board know that do you have them all here, Tina, in the handouts? I think we provided the board members
Yes,
with
all
a
of
series
them.
of emails that we've received from the Tierra Verde community about the Pinellas Bayway South cycle track. The Department of Transportation has just completed and opened. It's mostly open, I think. And I will be addressing this later in my director's report, but I did want to draw your attention to those emails that you have in front of you.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Anything else to pull from consent? Commissioner Edgars?
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd like to have Whit maybe talk a little bit about 5F and 5H. She spent some time with me going through some things, but I thought it might be good just to have that summary here for all of us at the same time. Thank you.
What?
I think what I would like to do for 5F is actually to bring Rodney up to talk about that. I'll set the stage for Rodney, but he was our manager through the selection process and can speak maybe a little bit better towards the process. We go out for procurement of consultants that we use on an on-call basis. This is not a specific task or set of tasks. We develop those later, but they are our on-call planning consultants, and they are eligible for both the PPC and the MPO to use. They are also available for all 25 local governments in Pinellas County to use, as well as other governments potentially. So with that, Rodney, would you mind just talking a little bit about the process for a minute?
Yes. We began the process early in 2023, which involved solicitation to the consultants in the planning community in the region, letting them know that we'd be going out for a new solicitation for planning support services. And the approach that we took this year was a little bit different. Last time, back in 2020, we had a list of sub-areas or specialties that we were looking to get services to support, and that resulted in quite a few proposals. So we ended up getting, I believe, about 53 proposals back in 2020. That was a lot of work on our part, as well as the part of our partners who helped us evaluate those proposals. So for this round, we decided to ask the consultants to put together teams that had specialties in 8 sub-areas. And that included things like transportation planning and analysis, urban design and redevelopment, economic analysis, and so on. We received 17 proposals, and those proposals were evaluated by an evaluation committee, which included 3 of our staff members, as well as 2 staff members from our local governments. Staff from Pinellas County, as well as the City of Safety Harbor, helped us evaluate those proposals. The scoring that was provided in your backup is reflective of the evaluation committee scores as they scored those proposals based on the criteria. And you will see in the total scores that we did have 2 firms that tied for the top ranked spot. But if you look down at proposals that were scored 8 and 9, which is HDR and Renaissance, there was about a 69-point spread between number 8 and number 9. And from number 9, which is Renaissance, and number 10, there was almost a 200-point difference between those 2 firms. Yes?
These numbers that we're looking at show it about 30-point difference.
For Renaissance.
For 9 and 10.
I'll say for the firm, because there was 2 number 1s and so on. So if you look at the score for Renaissance, which was 4,081 points, and then for Tool Design, which is 3886, the difference between those is almost 200 points, or 195 points.
On here, 9 and 10 are almost the same, where you have the ranking on the right side. So that's what I was looking at.
And so that was the justification by which we made the recommendation to make the break in the firms that would be recommended for contracts for the current term. Because if you look at the spreads between the other firms, there's no other spread that is almost 200 points between any of the other firms. And so that was part of the justification. The other consideration was to ensure that we had enough consulting firms with the right amount of expertise to not only do the things that we plan to take on over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, as well as the needs we think that local governments have, because they have been enabled to piggyback on our consultant contracts for their own local needs.
Just a continued question then. So the 8 that you're picking, that's not necessarily based on anything other than that spread that you just saw? I mean, why would you pick 8 versus 9 or 8 versus 6 or that kind of thing?
Because we wanted to be fair to all the firms that submitted proposals, and so you, in doing this sort of work, you look for a natural separation so that you can justify to the other firms that weren't recommended for contracts that, you know, their evaluation wasn't consistent with the ones that were recommended for approval.
So we don't have the applications here. What would you say the qualitative item that separated that top 8 from?
Well, again, yeah, one of the things the committee noted in Inspire's case was that since we had asked for teams with strong background qualifications and experience in a lot of areas, including things that they're strong in terms of land use and urban design, but we also looked for qualifications and experience when it comes to multimodal transportation, for web design and communication support, and other things that the evaluation committee were not as strong in their proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add from staff's perspective, they have done a good job for us. I think our staff's been satisfied with the work that they did on the urban design services contract. They are a fairly new firm, but the personnel with the firm have a lot of experience. The issue with tool design, which scored about the same score, is that they were one of our previous consultants and were not particularly responsive when we called on them to submit a proposal for work. So they're very different outcomes between those two firms, just a little additional information there. From a staff's perspective, you know, these are on call. There's no guarantee that any of these firms will receive any work, although there will be work assigned to their consultants. There's just no guarantee that any of these will receive work. As Rodney mentioned, last time we ended up with about 20 firms.
Yes, we did.
And there were quite a few that never received
Never got
any
work.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we have consciously tried to keep it a little bit tighter.
And Whit, you had said on the PPC side that it was going to be, it looked like $350,000 per year. You weren't sure about the MPO side. Did you get clarification on that?
Like I said, there's some peaks and valleys more on the MPO side, where we have the long-range transportation plan is kind of a pig and a python when it comes to our spending on consultant activities. For the PPC, Rodney will cover our budget in a little bit, but typically it's been $350,000 to $400,000 annually. Ballpark, about right? Or you want to correct me?
Not this year, but yeah.
Yeah, in the past.
In the past.
This year, we're trying to be a little leaner.
Yes.
So it's been anywhere from a couple $100,000 to $400,000 for the PPC.
And the MPO about 800 over 2 years, you said?
I think 800,000 is about right over a 2-year period.
Okay.
Again, a little bit higher this year because of the LRTP.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Roddy.
Is that it? Is that it, Commissioner?
Yes, that was it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else to pull from?
He wanted me to talk
look at
about
H.
5H. This is a scope of work and a fee not to exceed $80,000 for public engagement with WSP, one of our consultants for the long-range transportation plan. And what we're doing a little bit differently this time is engaging the public on a long-range transportation plan that goes out to the year 2050 can be kind of a challenge. Most people kind of think about the here and now, but we found that there are certain tools and engagement methodologies that work better than others, and one of those is creating more of a type of a game environment where you challenge people and they engage and they can earn points and they can do other activities and they can take pictures of things that they like or don't like in the transportation network or development arena. There's a lot of different attributes to that. They can score and evaluate and rank and do different things like that. And we want to employ that. That would be a customized website design that would be both mobile-friendly and for use on a desktop computer, and it would vary through the course of the long-range plan as we get into different phases of plan development. Right now, it's the early part of identifying what the issues and needs are. A little bit later, it will be putting together transportation concepts and ideas and getting reaction to those. And then a little bit later in the project, it will be asking people to look at cost and revenue assumptions and identifying priorities in the transportation network. And there's a lot of interesting and fun things you can do with that to enrich the experience of the user and hopefully get more meaningful input and a broader cross-section of the population. This will be available to every resident and business in Pinellas County. It will not be segmented by demographics or population, so anybody can participate. And we'll use things like QR codes and in-person materials when we go to events and forums, because we found that the best place to reach people is where people already are, rather than asking them to come to a specific meeting. So it'll be both online and in person, and they can use the tool that way.
Thank you.
And again, we're still working a little bit with the consultant, but this is a request for funding not to exceed $80,000. And it's within the budget of the LRTP.
What budget year will this come out of?
This will be in the current fiscal year budget. It's year one of our Unified Planning Work Program.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else from consent? Then what are the wishes of the board?
Madam Chair, are you still taking the full consent agenda after Commissioner Egger's questions have been answered, or do you wish to vote separately on F and H?
We can put them all together. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So we need a motion.
Well, I'm waiting for someone to make a motion. How
Move
about
approval.
that?
Approval.
Thank
Second.
you. Been moved and approved. All those in favor, do we need a roll call vote?
I don't need a roll call, but I need to know who made the first and who made the second. Albritton?
Commissioner Albritton and Scott, was it Scott that you did the second?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion, the consent passes. Okay, and now we are on the public hearing items. Whit?
We'll start with the MPO proposed amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program, and we have Jensen Hackett from the Florida Department of Transportation here today.
Good afternoon, Jensen.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
As Jensen makes his way, I'd just like to report for the record that Ms. Canary was the only person wishing to speak on the consent agenda.
That was awfully muffled. I'm not sure I heard you.
Just that Mrs. Canary was the only person to speak on the consent.
Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, board members. Jensen Hackett with the Department of Transportation. I'll be going over two separate amendments into your TIP document today, which we can do at the end as one amendment. These projects are number 446973-1 and 452689-1 to be amended into your TIP this afternoon. The first project, 446973-1, is the amendment for the addition of funds for the construction phase of a project at Gandy Boulevard and 94th Avenue North in the amount of just over $1.5 million. This project includes the realignment of the 94th Avenue off-ramp and frontage road, some bicycle and pedestrian enhancements, and a new signal at the intersection. The second project, 452689-1, is an amendment for the addition of Federal Transit Administration grant award funding that has been awarded to PSTA for a new solar-powered bus as well as some electric charging station equipment in the amount of $2.5 million. These two amendments do not affect any other projects within the TIP, and I can try and answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions? Anyone? No?
I guess we can just take the second one as well and vote on both at one time.
Please.
Alrighty, so this one has a little bit of an explanation. Ford Pinellas receives federal and state funds through FDOT on a 2-year cycle that aligns with the MPO's Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP, that shows all activities that the MPO will perform within those 2 years. Upon completion of that 2-year cycle, funds that are not spent by the NPO, known as the closeout balance, need to be accounted for and placed into year 2 of the current UPWP to be eligible to be spent by the NPO. Under your consent agenda that you just approved a moment ago, the UPWP was amended to add this closeout balance into that document. And since all federal MPO documents must be consistent with each other, this modification is to modify your current TIP document to account for that closeout balance. PL funds that are being modified from $1.9 million to $2.2 million, and then SU funds are being modified from $600,000 to just over $1 million to align with that UPWP amendment that you just approved a moment ago. I will need a motion and a subsequent roll call vote for this modification and the 2 TIP amendments that I just presented on earlier.
Okay.
Jensen, are you suggesting we can approve the amendments and the mod together with one roll call vote?
If the board so wishes to do so, yes.
Let's do that. One roll call vote.
Do we have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Tina, please call the roll.
Mayor Bujalski?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott? Aye. Councilmember Muhammad? Aye. Vice Mayor Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Floyd?
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll?
Aye.
Mayor Will?
Aye.
Commissioner Eggers?
Aye.
Councilmember Albritton?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Long?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
All right.
Thank you. Now we got the PPC item.
Is that by Jensen as well?
No, this will be our staff.
Okay. Now we have the Pinellas Planning Council.
So as you see Rodney coming up to the table, just to point out that previously you had Nusheen Rahman. Nusheen left us for the private sector a month or so ago, but we have hired her replacement. Rodney, do you want to just briefly introduce who will be doing this in July?
Yes, we have hired a experienced planner from Manatee County government, and she will be joining us here at the end of the month. So you will see her hopefully in this place at the July meeting. But in the interim, I will give you the overview of this month's case. This is a case that's been submitted to the council by Pinellas County. The request involves the amendment of a portion of a 6.5-acre tract of land in the Ridgemore area of the East Lake Tarpon community. The property has an existing designation of recreation open space, and the proposal is to amend the countywide plan map to public, semi-public, to allow for the construction of a telecommunications tower, ground equipment, and utility easement. These maps give you the general location of the amendment area up in the East Lake Tarpon area, and the map to the right gives you the boundaries of the amendment area, again, within that larger 6.5-acre tract that encompasses the park. These aerials give you a clear indication of geographic features at large in the East Lake Tarpon community, including East Lake Road, Lake Tarpon, Keystone Road, and then Ridgemore is perpendicular to East Lake Road in that location. The map to the right gives you a sense of the location of the park, the forested areas and wetland systems that surround it, and then clustered pockets of residential. And the park serves this larger residential community. The aerial gives you a clear indication in yellow of the amendment area, as well as showing at a sort of street level view where the potential tower and equipment would be, which would be over in this location. Again, the request is to amend the countywide plan map from the current designation that you see here on the map to the left, which is recreation open space, and the amendment would result in this small portion being amended from recreation open space to public, semi-public. We have determined that the surrounding area is consistent with the locational characteristics found in the countywide rules, and that the proposed telecommunications tower and associated equipment would not alter or impact the existing recreational amenities or layout that exists today for Ridgemore Central Park, and that the public, semi-public category is unique in that it does allow for the telecommunications and recreational uses on the same property. We found that this request is consistent with the relevant countywide considerations and recommend approval, and the Planners Advisory Committee did as well. Are there any questions?
Question.
Commissioner Eggers?
So was the property noticed with a sign that this hearing was going?
Pinellas County did publicly notice the application and did, I believe, send mailed notice as well to the surrounding property owners.
So the people drove by, they could see that there was a public hearing?
Yes.
And this was community supported?
Yes, it's our understanding it was, yes.
Is there any direction on the height limitations or the camouflaging that goes on with antennas versus non-camouflaging?
Yeah, those considerations are governed by Pinellas County's land development regulations, and I believe Evan is here to perhaps speak to that.
I'm Evan Johnson, Planning Division Manager, Pinellas County, and I just want to say that much like Rodney, I am here in place of somebody who is probably more qualified as our LPA meeting continues to run. To your question, first of all, the height would need to go, they will have to go to the Board of Adjustment for in excess of the 75 feet. So they're asking, I believe, for 150 feet is what they're looking to do. So that request will still have to go to a BA hearing. My understanding of the camouflaging of these particular poles is very limited based on the conversations we had with the recent case that came in front of the board discussing similar things. Ultimately, it is a singular monopole, which in fact, as far as our code is concerned, my understanding is that it would be considered camouflage because it is just a single monopole. It is not, doesn't have any, arms on it or anything like that. So that would be considered camouflage under our code currently.
So that all has to be, this whole thing, if they want to change the basic criteria, has to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Right, they have to go to the Board of Adjustment if they're going to exceed that height regardless.
All right, thank you.
David, did you have something?
No, that was it.
No, the other David.
Oh, sorry. You were looking, I thought, right at me, so.
No? Anybody else? Okay. All right. So
Move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Now we are on presentation or action. Do we have a PSTA activity report? Gina?
Yes, we do. Thank you. The PSTA board met on April 26, 2023. For the action items, the board approved the audit report that was presented by PSTA's audit firm, Cherry Beckert, which stated that PSTA received a clean opinion. The board also approved a new vendor-managed inventory contract, which will continue to help PSTA efficiently manage its inventory. For the information items, the board received information about PSTA's reserves and key budget assumptions for 2024, as well as the budget process as we begin that. Next, as a follow-up to the public comments that were made at the March board meeting, the staff presented options for providing free fares to disabled veterans with a plan to bring back the item to the May meeting for action. The board also received an update on the first 6 months of Sunrunner and on proposed enhancements, including a new station closer to the pier that can be implemented with cost savings from the original Sunrunner construction. A board workshop was also held on May 3rd, and at this meeting, discussions were held on several items, including PSTA's committee structure, the adopted scorecard and employee development, audit staffing and consulting levels, privatization, and the community bus plan scope. PSTA's next board meeting will be held on May 24th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the regional activities report.
I'll cover that again, and a little bit later in the presentation, under legislation, I'll also touch on regional activities briefly. But I did want to just give a shout out to the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council for putting on an excellent Regional Resilience Summit last week in Clearwater Beach. Chair, congratulations on your award for regional leadership. That was very well deserved.
Thank you.
Certainly from a transportation standpoint, but also from a resilience standpoint. And I think it was probably more for the resilience, but you've shown yourself to be a very able regional leader, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
That happened at the awards summit on the second day, on Friday. Thursday, I participated in a panel with my MPO partners and Secretary David Gwynn to talk about multimodal transportation and its role in resilient Tampa Bay. And that, I think, was fairly well received. And there was great attendance, and I really want to thank all the elected officials who turned out for the Resilient Summit. I lost count, but there must have been 50 to 60 elected officials at this event, and it was nice to see that. Also colleagues from all over the state of Florida, and some folks came from out of state as well. That's the main thing I wanted to cover right now, but I will certainly come back and talk about the Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization discussion and some other regional issues in our legislative update, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Nothing? Wow. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to point out that for the last public hearing, there were no citizens to be heard, no proponents, and no opponents that asked to speak for the last vote.
Okay, thank you.
Tina's keeping us honest.
Yeah. The Pinellas Planning Council preliminary FY24 budget discussion.
We're going to have Rodney come back up and do this one. Every year, as we get into the budget phase, we bring these items to the board for your consideration, and we will be asking for adoption of the budget in July.
Thanks, Whit. Today's discussion on the FY24 budget is intended to give you a high-level overview of the fiscal health of the agency, discuss key projects for the PPC in fiscal year 24, and review the two scenarios that I told you about back in February. I ask that you don't focus so much on the specific figures because there will be major updates released by the Office of Management and Budget and the Property Appraiser's Office in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So all the information you have right now is going to change. So please keep that in mind. Each year, our goals in the budget development process are the same and include taking a conservative approach to financial forecasts. We also consider pursuing tasks that align with our role as honest broker and strong partner. And we work to ensure that the plans that exist and the plans that we work on complement one another and the recommendations can be implemented. And to that implementation point, I'll share in some subsequent slides some of the things we plan to take on next year to ensure that these plans recommendations are indeed implemented. But before I get to that, I just wanted to give you a brief history of the millage rates of the PPC going back about 30 years. The PPC has existed in some form or fashion since 1965 and was reconstituted in its current form in 1988. The agency has a millage rate cap of 0.1666 and has generally operated in a very sound and fiscally responsible manner over the last several decades. This chart shows you about the last 29 years of millage rates and the relative ratio to the capacity that is available. And as you may recall, for some of you, the Board of County Commissioners did approve a millage rate increase during last year's budget cycle, which raised the rate to 0.0210 mils. And the primary purpose of that increase in the millage rate was to ensure that we did not have to constantly tap into reserves to balance the budget every year, which had become a common practice. post the merger. The current year's budget is being developed with no increase in the millage rate, and we'll share more details with you as those property tax revenue projections are refined. So as I mentioned in February, we received guidance from OMB to develop 2 budget scenarios. The first would be using a typical increase in property tax revenues, and at this point, the guidance is to use a 7% increase. And the second scenario is to apply the rollback rate or constrain the fiscal year 24 property tax revenues using the FY23 amounts. If the Board of County Commissioners chooses to apply the rollback rate, then that would be an effective millage rate reduction for our agency on the heels of getting the increase last year. There are 4 revenue categories for the Pinellas Planning Council budget. Those are property tax revenues. We also receive funds from the MPO in terms of reimbursements for MPO staff salaries and benefits. We do get a varying amount of money for providing local technical assistance to our local governments, and we do have money in a small interest bearing account. On the operating expenditure side, there are actually 20 line items, and you have those in your backup spreadsheets. And for the purpose of today's conversation, I just wanted to focus your attention on the 3 that you see there. The first is professional services. This is a fund that we maintain to be able to execute special projects or initiatives. The next line item is intergovernmental service charges. These are charges that we talked about with the board in the past, and these are charges that we incur from Pinellas County when they provide services to us like HR, legal, and IT. And then that last item there in contingency is money that we maintain to be able to maintain the agency's operations in the event of a natural disaster or declared emergency. These 3, besides salaries and benefits, are our 3 largest line items, and we do our best to try to keep these at manageable levels. But as I told you in the past, the intergovernmental service charges have been a burden, if you will, on our budget, just because they appeared back in 2017, and they have increased pretty substantially over the last 4 or 5 years or so. And as of Friday, OMB told me that they're not going to rise that much this year. But I won't give you the number they gave me because it's still preliminary, but they assured me that it shouldn't be too much of an increase this time around.
Rodney, if I could interrupt for just a second, if you could stay on intergovernmental charges for a minute, can you just give examples of what that covers?
So it's broken into 3 components. The first is, smaller part is risk management. So those risk management activities, we pay to the county for providing that service to us. There's a general government intergovernmental service charge, which deals with things like HR, legal, and so on, those sort of typical government services that the county provides. And then the largest part of those charges is our IT charges. So our access to things like geographic information system software. We're probably the strongest user in the county, quite honestly, of GIS. And so we pay a pretty good amount of money to the county every year to be able to access that software. And the software does a lot for us because when your cities need different types of data and analysis, they're coming to us with these needs. And we're able to provide that service to the cities using those GIS capabilities.
I just wanted to distinguish that from rent and telephone charges and things like that that are more line item oriented charges.
So moving along and digging a little deeper into professional services, you'll see in the budget, as we talked about a few items ago, for this year, for fiscal year 24, for the PPC, we plan to budget about $225,000 for special projects and key initiatives. You've heard Whit talk in the past about the multimodal transportation impact fee and the need to update this countywide ordinance. This ordinance was last updated in 2016, and it needs an update because of a few things. One being it's not in alignment with state statute. It does not reflect the multimodal transportation needs that we have here in Pinellas County. And lastly, it does not reflect the current construction cost environment that we all operate in. This would be a funding partnership. WIT has gotten commitments from the City of Largo and the City of St. Pete to help fund this impact fee ordinance update. And there are ongoing discussions with Pinellas County as well about lending money to this much-needed project.
And the City of Clearwater as well.
And the City of Clearwater. There is also an MPO portion to this. So the MPO will be dedicating about $100,000 from their budget to help with this impact fee ordinance update.
And I'll just point out that the impact fee or mobility fee or whatever it ends up being is a useful source of local funds that can be used to augment state and federal resources. So a lot of times you need a match, and this can be a suitable local match without having it come out of general revenue, which seems to be the sticking point, particularly with Pinellas County.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whit, could you give some examples of the transportation impact fees?
Examples of how they're used or examples of?
Where they come from.
Okay. Transportation impact fees come from development activity. They are, used to be that they were only governed by case law, but in the last 10 to 15 years, the legislature has passed some laws relating to impact fees and mobility fees. In some cases, they limit the amount you can increase them on an annual basis, things like that. But they are fees, the way this one is structured, they are charged based on the anticipated trip generation of development. And typically, in a redevelopment situation, the development gets credit for whatever was there before. So if you're putting in a apartment complex and it used to be a car dealership, you can count the trips for that car dealership. So it's a little bit more of a challenge in a redeveloping county to generate much revenue from this source. Does that help? Okay.
Quick question on
Commissioner Eggers.
the monies that could be used for operational. Are we talking about operational here at MPO?
No. So right now, the transportation impact fee can only be used for capital. A mobility fee has a little more flexibility and is a much more multimodal oriented because the basis of the fee is driven by the nature of the transportation projects. This one is based on the cost of widening a road, a lane mile of road, to give more capacity. So the basis of the fee is based on something we don't do a whole lot of in Pinellas County.
So the multimodal, if it goes to the other, then it would be available for who?
So for either fee, this is driven by transportation projects that a local government would identify as a need to support the development that's happening. So to answer Commissioner Scott's question a little bit more, if a development is happening in, say, Tierra Verde, you would collect the fee from the development in Tierra Verde, and we have benefit districts that would generally cover where that money can be spent. So you couldn't take that money and generate it in Tierra Verde and spend it in Palm Harbor. You would spend it in Tierra Verde. With a mobility fee, if we go that route, and that's a ways down the road, potentially you could use it for like the Clearwater Ferry operation cost. Potentially.
Not what that is.
But that would
Not
have
an
to be
impact fee.
that would have to be a project that would have to be identified as supporting any additional development.
So, Whit?
Yes.
Thinking creatively, if we were to implement a mobility fee, and could that be used as local match for federal funds for waterborne transportation, potentially?
Potentially.
So,
And for state funding as well, because the service development grant program that does help fund transit only covers 50% of the cost.
But as an impact fee, today, it can't, because because the impact fee is for new residents and the impact of new residents to our county.
Exactly, and it's limited to capital.
Right. So as it stands today, it can't be used.
That's right.
But in the future, And when you're doing this for other cities, I mean, should we all be looking at that, or?
Well, this would be a countywide approach.
Okay.
And you know, we would go with there. And boy, Rodney, we didn't really plan on a mobility fee discussion. Maybe we should bring this back at a future date.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at a place where everything should be on the table, because otherwise we're making decisions in a bit of a vacuum, considering how important this issue is. And there are other regional conversations going on that also are looking for, again, creative, new ways to generate local match for all that federal money that we could be going after if we could get some real discussion around how can we come up with that local match. If local governments are being constrained by inflationary cost or things that go on at the state that impact us dramatically, like the pension increase and stuff like that, I mean, we have to look at new creative ideas that maybe haven't been explored before. So yes, I think we should bring that back.
So what I would suggest is, right now, we're just trying to lay the groundwork to actually do a study, to either update this or
Oh
move
my
in a new
God,
direction.
another study.
We're going to have to.
You have to.
And then, if this is approved and we have the funding in place to do it, then I would suggest we would have an agenda item with the board to cover the pros and cons of an impact fee versus mobility fee. And in fact, once we get through our consultant selection, we were going to do that with our technical committee as well, because there's some educating we'll need to do of the planners and engineers around the county as well, who work with the transportation impact fee currently.
Commissioner Floyd.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask real quick, the districts,
I was going to get to that because, as Whit mentioned, the law or the current ordinance constrains you to where you can collect and spend the money. So there's 13 districts in the current ordinance, and that's what this map shows. So, for example, if you collect an impact fee in fee zone 11, which is Greater St. Pete, then those monies can only be spent on projects within that area.
Okay. What about I guess more specifically, like there's A.
Yes, and so those areas are typically our community redevelopment areas. So those are areas that have been, or downtowns, and those have been focused on trying to encourage more development. And so those areas, because of their physical characteristics, have shorter trip lengths, so they actually pay a reduced fee than they do in the areas outside of those designated areas.
Okay, but the money collected in them can still be spent in the whole.
It has to be collected and spent within that
the
boundary. Yeah, so
A?
yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next two bullet points are linked to one another. We've talked to you a lot about Advantage Alt 19 in our work planning for that next transit corridor. And the timeline has evolved because of public involvement and some other things. And so we anticipate having some carryover that we have to take from fiscal year 23 and move that over into 24 to complete the project in the fall. And so that'll be about $15,000 that'll be carried over from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. The second part of that, again, to my earlier point about implementation, we feel that we need to have money available to help the city of Largo in particular implement the recommendations that'll come out of the Advantage Alt 19 plan. We have discussed this with their planning staff, and they are in full support of working with us to amend their comprehensive plan and land development regulations to implement the recommendations for a couple of the potential station areas within the city of Largo. We would also like to marry up some of the work we've been doing with urban design in the city of Largo to help address some of the potential challenges relative to allowing more transit-oriented development around existing established neighborhoods. We're learning and working with City of St. Pete doing the same thing. That is a very important consideration. In furthering our partnership with Pinellas County on the countywide housing compact, we have also identified a need to help our local governments evaluate their comprehensive plan and land development regulations to ensure that there aren't any unnecessary barriers or constraints to bringing more affordable and workforce housing to Pinellas County. So we are proposing to budget $50,000, and Pinellas County Housing and Community Development is budgeting another $40,000 to work to develop a housing compact toolkit in fiscal year '24. And then the last item, although it doesn't have any budget or budgetary impacts because it's essentially our staff support, we did want to acknowledge the fact that we are going to continue to work with PSTA and the city of St. Pete on, again, amending their comprehensive plan and land development regulations to establish those station areas that were called for 22nd Street and 32nd Street South. So let's shift a little bit to talk about what the fiscal impact of these scenarios are. Again, don't hold me to these numbers because you will see them in July and they'll be different. But what we wanted to do is give you just a snapshot of where the beginning fund balance is, what the revenue numbers would be both at the 7% increase and then if the rollback rate is applied, how those relate to the planned operating expenses and what that difference is. And so you'll see under scenario one with this is a 7% increase, we're still a little bit underwater, about $26,000 or $27,000. But under the rollback scenario, it's almost $182,000. But under any scenario, we still feel like we have a pretty good amount of reserves that can offset both of those scenarios. So again, this is something that OMB has advised us to do, and we just wanted to share with you this snapshot of revenues, operating expenses, and what those numbers roughly look like at this point in time. So again, we're going to continue to refine these revenue and expenditure projections with OMB and the PAO. We're meeting with the county administrator at the end of this month, and then we'll bring back best numbers at the July meeting for you to take action on the PPC budget and millage rate. And then the process will conclude with the Board of County Commissioners adopting the budget and the millage rate for the PPC in September. Are there any questions?
Questions, anybody? Great job, Rodney. Look at that. No questions, concerns, or anything.
I took them on a detour.
What? Well, I see you looking at me.
Just said we weren't going to get into the numbers today, so we're not going to get into the numbers.
Well, I can't believe you actually. Till another day. Okay.
Before we go to the next item, just want to point out that the reason we're canceling our June meeting is because we're having budget information sessions that day for the county commissioners, and we'll be presenting this budget to the BCC in those budget information sessions. I don't know if it'll be the same day as our board meeting, but
Then Commissioner Eggers will have lots of
then
questions.
we'll have a lot of opportunity for the county commission because ultimately the county commission approves our budget.
Okay. All right. Now we are on countywide plan amendments. Caitlin Neiman and Linda Fisher.
Hi, everybody. My name's Caitlin Nyman. I have been an intern at Ford Pinellas since August, and today I'd like to give you all an update on the Multimodal Accessibility Index, which throughout the presentation I'll refer to as the MAX Index. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is our current transportation standards, which are based upon adopted level of service. And it currently states that roadways that are adjacent to proposed plan map amendment site must operate at a level of service of D or better. Otherwise, they must satisfy balancing criteria, which are essentially just criteria that if you fulfill, provide us with some sort of justification to still approve the proposed amendment despite not meeting the level of service of D or better. So next, to give you guys a little bit better of an idea of what I mean when I say level of service of D, I have a graphic up there. It's the one that's circled there in red, and it should show you that, sorry? Oh no, sorry. It should show you that although level of service traffic is at a high density, it is still free-flowing. And then on this next slide, I do want to just point out what I'm talking about when I say specifically the roadways adjacent to proposed plan map amendment sites. And so this is a screenshot of the GIS software that we use when we're researching to present on the countywide considerations. And in this particular circumstance, the proposed amendment site would be that orange parcel there that's outlined in red. And then the line there to the left of it that's circled would be the adjacent roadway. So I also want to draw attention to the legend that's even further to the left. As you can see, A, B, and C are all green. D is in yellow, but like we discussed, D would still be acceptable. And then you have E and then F. So in this particular circumstance, you can see that that roadway there is E, and it would require balancing criteria. Okay, so based upon that, there are some issues with level of service. And the main one is that level of service is explicitly linked to roadway expansion. And in a redeveloping county like Pinellas, we don't have a lot of ability to expand our roadways. And so as a result, we don't have a lot of ability to improve level of service. Additionally, level of service is also only measured on major roadways during peak times. And so we don't have any level of service standards for local or neighborhood roadways. We believe that the solution to these problems is the MAX index. And the MAX index may be just a better fit for Pinellas County in particular because it accounts for other modes of transportation, thereby encouraging multimodal transportation investments and allowing for greater redevelopment. I do want to touch on real briefly, this image that I have below there is actually a screenshot of the MAX index. That red dot there is the Ford Pinellas office. And so I'm going to touch on it in the next slide, but I just want to draw attention to the scores that are there in the middle, and then also just the grid cells. So again, like I showed in the last picture, max scores are assigned to quarter-mile grid cells. The reason that we chose a quarter mile is because we believe that it's a walkable travel shed for most people. And then those scores are calculated as a total of the following features present within that grid cell. So I won't go through every single feature, but I do want to draw attention to two things. The first is, as you can see, it's that first bullet point there in yellow. Level of service is still included in the MAX index. We're not getting rid of level of service. It's still going to be accounted for. It just obviously won't be the only factor accounted for anymore. And then I also want to draw attention to, as you can see, they're color-coded. Certain features receive more points than others. And I'll touch on that a little bit more in the next slide of our logic behind that and the reasoning why. And that reasoning is that in our last long-range transportation plan update, when we asked residents where they would like to see investments, 40% of them said they'd like to see more investments in bike ped, 40% said they'd like to see more investments in transit, and 20% said they'd like to see more investments in roadway improvements. And so that's kind of our logic behind why certain features receive more points than others. Additionally, I'd like to take a moment just to touch on two different areas in Pinellas County that I think would help give you guys a better idea of what we're talking about with MAX scores and what you can expect with areas that you're more familiar with. So the first one is East Lake, which is more suburban, low density, and the average MAX score in East Lake is a 2.0. And that's in comparison to downtown Dunedin, which is obviously a little denser, more urban, and where the average MAX score is a 16.2. So most importantly, what impacts will implementing the MAX index have? The primary one is that amendments to the countywide plan map will then need to maintain a MAX score equal to or better than the countywide average MAX score at the time. Currently, the countywide average MAX score is a 7.5, and that will be updated annually. And then just like with any of the other countywide considerations, if that score is not reached, then balancing criteria will be required. And this next slide is the balancing criteria, summarized obviously, and so I'd like to just go through those briefly. The first is if the proposed amendment site is within a community redevelopment area. The second is if there is planned infrastructure within the quarter-mile grid cell of the proposed amendment site that will increase the MAX score of that grid cell at all. So I just want to clarify, it doesn't have to increase it to the countywide average, it just has to increase it at all. The third is if the proposed amendment site is within an activity center, multimodal corridor, and/or planned redevelopment district. The fourth is if the proposed amendment site intersects more than one grid cell, and in that case, the average of those two grid cells would be used. And then the fifth is if it's consistent with established multimodal plans. And we have this one here because we understand that the list I showed you a couple slides ago is not exhaustive. Local governments will have forms of transportation within their multimodal plans that are unique to them and that they really want to invest in. And so this fifth one here is our way of still being able to account for that. So that concludes my presentation. I'm more than happy to accept questions now, but as you can see, I also have my contact information up there, and then also Jared, my direct supervisor's contact information up there, where you can forward us questions and comments there as well. But does anybody have any questions?
Anyone? Mayor Podjowski.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
How does this affect our communities? Let me ask it in a better way. We know that the state discontinued, our ability to look at the counts. I forget the name of it. There's a word for it.
Concurrency?
Yeah, concurrency, which is why you would look at levels of roadway and that kind of thing. So we can't do that anymore, even though we all look at it. How does this differ from that? How does it change it, and can it be looked at?
Well,
When you're approving developments and those kinds of things, like, is it just another thing that the state's going to take away?
Well, the state has not completely removed concurrency from local governments, but it's given less weight to that. And certainly there is less state oversight in terms of growth management. But the principle behind concurrency is that you will have adequate public facilities in place at the time of development. We certainly want to have adequate public facilities in place at the time of development, whether it's redevelopment or new development. But the timing of that is a challenge when you look at our transportation improvement program and you see how long it takes to get a transportation project online.
Yeah.
So what this does is it gives us more tools in the toolbox for local governments to look at options that are generally more financially feasible and easier to deliver on the ground than major transportation projects that would, say, improve roadway capacity or level of service from E to D. That would typically entail a widening of a lane, probably several miles of a lane. It would entail maybe an interchange like at Gulf to Bay and Belcher, major projects that could be hundreds of millions of dollars. So this just really focuses on a network of multimodal strategies, and it needs to be consistent with the context of the area. I don't think the state would take it away because this is still how our agency looks at plan amendments and recommended increases in density or intensity. So it really pertains to the countywide plan and the countywide rules.
And will all the communities be privy to all of this?
Yes, this would be applied countywide. It doesn't mandate that local governments do the same thing for their own plan changes, but anything that would come to Fort Pinellas in terms of the land use changes or land use amendments, we would take through this process. And we would hope that it would be a good model for local governments to apply as well.
Well, and that's my point. Like, when will all of this be completed? Hello. Welcome
Maybe
back.
Jared can answer some of those questions.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on a couple points. For the record, Jared Austin, Fort Pinellas. So when you had talked about the local governments being privy to all of this, this has actually been a pretty extensive ongoing process that we've worked pretty hand in glove with a lot of our local governments. We had subcommittees of our PAC and TCC, planners, transportation engineers, all of that have gotten their eyes on this, who think that it's a good effort in terms of having a measurable way to evaluate a transportation impact for a community.
So when will it be completed?
The Multimodal Accessibility Index is it's already complete, but it will be included as part of our countywide rules recommendations that will come before you all in July.
Okay, so it's this year.
Yes.
So if I were to pass on any from, I'm sure our people on the technical coordinating committees and all that, I mean, I'm sure they know about it. This is, but it should be a part of our development review, not like, I mean, we had a whole bunch of development up until like 6 months ago, and everything has come to a complete halt. Right. But we should be educating ourselves as elected officials, as our LPA, our local planning agency, residents who sit on that board. Everybody should be educating themselves in this as a new way of looking at those things.
Completely agree.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Looks like we're good.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we
Okay,
are
now-
bringing a series of these, so Linda's going to talk about a couple of the other plan amendments.
Thank you. And just waiting for the PowerPoint to pull up. Okay, thank you. So this is the last group of amendments in the proposed rules package. This presentation will cover a number of smaller amendment topics that we've been discussing with our Planners Advisory Committee since the last update of the rules in 2021. The first of those amendments is what we're calling transfers of density and intensity. This isn't new content, it just reorganizes and clarifies rules that already exist today. And it covers three land use tools: density and intensity averaging, transferable development rights, and density and intensity pools. And I'll just quickly talk about what each one does. Density intensity averaging is typically used when you have a large development that spans parcels with different land use categories. For example, an apartment complex with a retail component. Density intensity averaging allows the developer to combine all the normal development rights of their land and use them on a project-wide basis. Transferable development rights, or TDRs, allow development entitlements to be transferred from one parcel to another. And that can be used as an incentive to preserve the current use of certain parcels. For example, if you have a historic building that's using less density than it's entitled under its land use category, rather than seeing that building knocked down and redeveloped with something else, you can allow the property owner to sell off some of their development rights to be used elsewhere in return for preserving that historic use. And then lastly, density intensity pools work similar to TDRs, but instead of transferring entitlements to a specific receiving property, they go into a pool that the local government can then draw from over time to incentivize the type of development that they want to see. These three tools are already used by many local governments in our county, but if you were to ask your staff, they would agree that this has never been the easiest section of the rules to use. We get a lot of questions and requests for interpretation, so we're proposing these revisions just to make the process simpler and clearer. The next proposed amendment is for multi-jurisdictional activity centers, multimodal corridors, and planned redevelopment districts. And this would apply to, for example, a city that's adopting an activity center over a large area that also includes unincorporated parcels, which it wants to annex into the activity center over time. Now, a local government can only amend the land use designation for parcels within its own jurisdiction. And that means that anytime the city annexes a parcel in the future, it has to come back through the countywide plan amendment process to change its land use designation to activity center. And that's a fairly onerous process. The proposed new section of the rules creates an alternative where the city can partner with the county to adopt the activity center designation for those unincorporated parcels all at once in advance. It's better planning, and it saves the city and this board from having to make a lot of small repetitive amendments. Now, it's already possible to do this under the current rules. We've done it once with Largo's Tri-City Special Area Plan, which is shown on your screen. And Pinellas County partnered with them for that, but there was a lot of confusion during that process. So this proposed amendment codifies exactly how it works and again makes it easier to use. The next topic is the Coastal High Hazard Area, or CHHA. We're proposing to elevate the tier of review for countywide plan map amendments to activity centers and multimodal corridors in the Coastal High Hazard Area. We're adding just a few new requirements, which for the most part codify information that we already ask for. For example, to provide a transportation impact analysis that looks at evacuation routes. We're also proposing to add a new item to the balancing criteria for all amendments in the CHHA. This item was developed in coordination with the Pinellas County Emergency Management Department. It encourages more resilient building, which can include going above the minimum requirements for wind load or elevation, or providing a backup source of electricity. We know that residents in the CHHA are going to have to evacuate during a storm, so the goal of this is to make sure that they have homes to come back to when they return. And that's a planning priority that emergency management has strongly encouraged us to include. The last group of proposed amendments is just some basic housekeeping. These apply to our process rather than land use standards. We're proposing to standardize our deadlines and reporting for staff level reviews, updating our public notice requirements to stay current with changes in state law, clarifying the process for countywide plan map amendments that are based on development agreements if those agreements change over time, clarifying the purpose of submaps to the countywide plan map, and we'll be proposing to adopt one of those submaps of target employment centers as part of the TEALS amendments. And then finally, just adding and updating some definitions. So, over the last 2 months, you've heard about the 3 major parts of this proposed rules amendment package. You've heard about the TEALS amendment, you've just heard about the max index, and then this group of miscellaneous amendments. If the board is willing to proceed, then we ask for your authorization to advertise a public hearing for your July meeting, and then we will bring all this back to you for your formal consideration for adoption. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Commissioner Eggers?
So just on the transfer of density, which certainly, I guess, is a nice tool to have in a county like we have here, so there's so little land available. So I'm thinking of trying to think of examples, like if you have a piece, I'm assuming it's like-kind properties. So if it's residential, then it can transfer to another residential property, or?
They can be the same or different categories, as long as if you're transferring density, it has to be going to a category that allows residential. But they don't have to be.
If it's coming from residential, it has to allow for residential.
If it's density, yes.
And so where does that enter into the process of approvals for developments on the one that's receiving the new additional density? I mean, one thing about it, we need the density, but everybody agrees with it except when it's like real to them.
Right.
So how does that come into play, and when does that come into play for consideration?
That is administered entirely at the local government level. What we do from the countywide perspective is we establish a framework of what local governments are allowed to adopt in their land development regulations. We review their enabling provisions, we renew them for consistency when they're adopted at the local level, but then every time they're used at the local level, that's entirely a local decision. So it would be up to whatever your local process, wherever it is placed.
Okay. So again, so they're putting a development together that's going through the process, and then they just say, oh, by the way, we're adding some additional density to the project because this area allows for it.
It does have to be approved at the local level as part of the land use development.
All part of the public hearing process, and just trying to see how that mechanic is going to work, so thank you.
Anyone else? No? So what are the wishes of the board? Do you want to
Madam Chair,
It's just an information item.
just for the record, there are no citizens requesting to be heard on this action item. Thank you.
There are?
There are not.
Oh,
And it's just an information item today. We will bring this back in July for.
It's an action item today for the
Oh,
board
for
to
public
authorize
hearing. I'm sorry.
advertisement.
that's exactly what I was just going to ask her. Thank you. I'm trying to get a consensus from the board.
I'll move to approve.
You move to move forward with public
I'm not
hearing?
ready.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Who's a nay?
Yeah.
You don't want the public to know?
I just don't want it to come back for a hearing yet. I'd rather it come back to talk it over again. There's a lot in here, and I just want to make sure that we totally get what we're doing here. And then maybe if everybody else does, that's fine. I don't. That's why I wanted to. I'm not comfortable with it yet, so.
Linda, if I could clarify also, I believe that we're planning to bring back the target employment industrial lands policy changes at July as well. So both of those would be paired. So it's certainly possible that we could split those, but it's better to bring a single package. And I think that's what you would recommend, right?
Correct. We're going to bring back the whole package. We will open it up for discussion again. And That will be the first of 3 public hearings that it has to have for a countywide rules amendment. It has to have 1 public hearing of the Fort Pinellas Board and then 2 of the Board of County Commissioners.
And
And
then
we'll
if-
be happy to give you presentations for all of those public hearings.
And if we could have somebody from at least county staff that might be able to engage in those hypothetical discussions that we're talking about when we look at these kinds of questions? Sure. We just say we just turn it over to the local group and then they do their thing. So I'd like to have a local group here that can talk about what that might mean for a process.
Okay.
Kind of like.
What I was just going to add to Commissioner's point, there are certain communities that already have these provisions in place, and perhaps we can add them to the discussion in July as well. For example, City of Clearwater has a very sophisticated density pool and TDR program, and they consult with us quite often on administration of that. So I think we can provide that additional insight to you.
And it wasn't just that item, it's just, there's a lot in here too, so, thank you.
So what I think I heard from Linda is that there's not just 1 public hearing, there are 3.
There is 1 public hearing of this board, and then it has to go twice before the Board of County Commissioners.
Well, okay then, I venture to say we'll get a lot more information and have a lot more time for in-depth conversation. So, okay, so all in favor, we already did
We already
that,
did
right? And Commissioner Eggers
Yep.
is a no. So go ahead and advertise it for July, and we'll move forward.
And we are always available to speak to you individually if you have questions or things we can explain. Thank you.
All right? Yes, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious, do we know what the timeline would be for public hearings at the county commission level?
The Forward Pinellas public hearing will be as part of this meeting. One of the requirements for the 2 CPA or Board of County Commissioner hearings as their countywide planning authority is that one of those public hearings is after the 6 p.m. hour. So one will be at 9:30 a.m. and one will be at 6 p.m.
We don't have control over exactly when that gets scheduled, but we hope it gets scheduled in the August, September
Yeah,
timeframe.
probably August, September. Okay, thanks.
All right. Performance measures and targets, Chelsea?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Chelsea Favera for Pinellas staff. So this presentation this is an action item before you today. We're going to talk about some of the federal and state performance measures. Up on the screen are a list of the 4 specific categories of measures that we are required to address as an MPO. The first one up there is safety. You all reviewed our safety performance measures and targets in early 2023. Those have already been adopted. So now the 3 below that, the infrastructure condition, system reliability, and freight movement are the ones that are before you today. So the measures are set by Federal Highway, and the states also set targets for each of those measures. And then it's up to the MPOs to decide if we would like to support the statewide targets or if we'd like to develop our own. And really what it comes down to is what's best for Pinellas County. When we looked at the safety performance measures and targets, we recognized that the state set targets of 0 for all of their safety measures and targets. While we recognized that that was a very great goal that we should all strive for, we decided to set targets that were a little bit more contextually sensitive to Pinellas County and that we could take more actionable steps towards achieving. So with these next set of targets, that's also something to keep in mind. When it comes to the 3 measures before you today, these are only applying to the NHS, that's the National Highway System roadways, and those are the ones that are shown in your screen. Generally, it's the major roadway network and many of our state roads, but not all of them. The jurisdictions that have responsibility for bridge and pavement condition vary on the NHS roads. They include the state, FDOT, Pinellas County, and there's also a portion of the NHS that is covered by the City of Clearwater. So when it comes to pavement condition, that'll be the first one that we talk about today. There's kind of a scale when it comes to pavement condition, anywhere between very good and exceptionally poor, let's just say. And there's a kind of a sweet spot for resurfacing. You can either resurface a roadway when it's early on and pay very little to maintain that roadway, or if you wait for the pavement to degrade too far, it's very expensive and much more intensive resurfacing needs to be done. And the issues with pavement condition aren't just, potholes, rutting and cracking in the road, but as we've seen in media reports, roadways that have deteriorated, cars can kick up rocks that then break windshields, and it becomes a whole nother thing. So we really need to make sure that our roadways are maintained to a certain level. On this chart here, the 4-year targets, these are the targets that have been set by Florida Department of Transportation, and then the column to the right shows in 2021 the conditions in Pinellas County. So for the interstate pavement in good condition, the target that was set by the state is 60% of the interstate will have pavement that is at least in good condition. In Pinellas County, our interstate condition is about 54.4%. However, I will note in the adopted work program, there are some resurfacing projects on our interstate that will help bring that number back up to the target set by the state. When it comes to the percent of the interstate in poor condition, the state has a target of less than 5%. We don't have any of our interstate miles that are in poor condition currently. And then when it comes to our non-interstate roadways, and this is an important difference because the feds set separate standards and the state sets separate targets for roads that are interstate versus non-interstate. So the state sets that target at 40% of non-interstate roadways would be in good condition, or at least 40%. We're just over that threshold. And then when it comes to poor condition in Pinellas County, just over 1% of our roads are actually considered in poor condition. Oh, can you use your microphone?
On the interstate that you're defining here, it's 19.
No, interstate is defined as I-275. Okay. 19 would fall under the non-interstate.
Oh, the non-interstate. So we have, how much was in poor condition?
Only about 1.1% of non-interstate is considered in poor condition.
And that would primarily be 19. So it's capturing all of the really bad condition of 19 up in North County?
Yes, US 19 is included in this.
Okay.
When it comes to bridge condition, in Pinellas County, we have a lot more than 154 bridges. However, this data set is the National Highway System, so that covers 154 different bridges. The state's target for 4 years for bridges classified as in good condition, and this is quantified by deck area. Their target is 50% will be in good condition. We have 65.2% of our bridges are in good condition, so we're doing pretty well compared to the statewide targets. When it comes to poor condition, none of our bridges that are on the National Highway System are considered to be in poor condition. So we're also doing very well on that one. The last target that we're going to address is travel time reliability. This one's a little tricky to talk about, but it really just measures the predictability of the time it takes to travel on a given corridor. This is an example I use. These numbers are completely made up, so don't put a whole lot of faith in the numbers. But as an example, one person drives along US 19 southbound from Curlew to 118th Avenue. On Monday, it takes them 20 minutes. On Thursday, it takes them 60 minutes. Friday, 25 minutes. That is not a reliable trip. However, the person traveling on I-275 southbound from the Howard Franklin to 54th Avenue, it takes between 20 and 30 minutes on any given day. That's pretty reliable. This doesn't mean that it's a great travel time. Person B could take them an hour and a half, 5 days a week, but it's reliable because it's predictably terrible. So that's what it is with reliability. We're not looking at great, we're looking at predictability of traveling on any given corridor. So these numbers here kind of show the Pinellas County conditions. And again, I want to stress this is not good, this is predictable. So on the interstate, about 91.4% of our lane miles were considered predictable. And on the non-interstate, about 95.7%. And the last measure, that's truck travel time reliability ratio, lots of big words. Really what it means is 1 to 1. If that were rated as a 1, then that would mean if you, on an average day, it takes you 10 minutes to go on the stretch of roadway. On the worst day, it takes you 10 minutes to go on that stretch of roadway. That's a 1. 2, on the worst day, it takes about double the time that it takes you on an average day. So that's the truck measure there. We're at about 1.55 for the trucks, so not too bad. And the statewide target is set at 2. So I know this is a lot of numbers. But generally what staff is proposing, that because our numbers are pretty close to, well, and pretty much we meet all the targets except for that one condition, and there are projects in the work program that we believe will bring the interstate pavement condition back up a little higher, we're recommending that we support the statewide targets, with one exception. and that is the percent of non-interstate roads in good condition. While we are meeting that 40% target, we believe as staff level that the interstate and the non-interstate pavements should be maintained to the same level of service, basically. And we believe that that high standard should be set for our US 19s or Ulmerton roads, the same as they are for I-275. In addition to that, when FDOT comes through and resurfaces our roadways, there are opportunities to include operational improvements, safety improvements, other projects that can be incorporated. So we would like to recommend that we set that target a little bit higher than the statewide average for our non-interstate roadways at 60% to maintain that same level of pavement condition. Otherwise, the staff recommendation is to support the statewide targets. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I have a question, because you started out by saying none of these numbers are real.
That was, I'm sorry, on these travel times. I just kind of made up the travel times. It might not take you an hour to get from Curlew to 118th. Those are the numbers that are not real. Sorry.
Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just not really related to this presentation so much, but just curious, when it comes to repaving the interstates or ensuring the quality of the pavement of the interstates, is that a federal responsibility, a state, a local? Where does that fall?
It's a state responsibility. There may be some federal money involved, but the federal government gives that money to the state to handle that.
So we know, in this group here, we don't have a role to play in that?
We really don't. And when we develop our long-range transportation plan, we really don't even have to consider maintenance costs as part of that. We have to consider maintenance costs for transit operations, things like that, but not so much for that, for highways.
Okay. Thanks.
It's also interesting to note that whenever we build a bike trail, for instance, local governments are required to generally to maintain those facilities once they're built, even if it's state or federal funding. So it's kind of a little bit different deal depending on which mode you're talking about.
Anybody else? That was easy.
Okay. Well, this is an action item, and we're looking for a recommendation of approval for these performance targets.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Again, for the record, before you take a motion, there are no citizens requesting to speak on this item.
Well, I don't know how I feel about it, because I drive on the roads all the time, and I think they're horrible. Especially if you're going across the bridge over into Tampa. So, what?
I'm happy to move approval. I mean, I think we want these to be good targets. They're terrible, but they're, I mean, they are terrible, but
That's an oxymoron right there.
But I mean, we want the targets to be better, right? And that's what these are. Okay. So I move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We don't need a roll call vote, but do we need? All in favor?
Aye.
I don't know. Where's my maybe button?
Is that a valid answer?
No, but
I think it's, I mean, I voted yes, but I'm concerned about the conditions for sure.
well, there you go.
Yeah, when you're on 19, I mean, it's just horrible. And we're not even due to have them improved technically for 3 years, although they're going to be, up in the North County, they're going to be making an interim phase adjustment or fix so that we can get through the next 3 years. But I'm just not sure if these are reflection, I think these are a reflection of other areas that have hopefully, I mean, more like I-275, although I don't drive it that often, so I don't know the condition of that. And that would take up a lot of our miles, I'm assuming, right, on this. So if the people that do drive that find them acceptable, then I guess these numbers are okay. But
I
the
mean,
ones in North County on 19 are not.
on
And
top of that, we have too many places in the county where young people are getting killed in these horrific accidents. And we don't seem to be making much improvement on that. I mean, if this is a standard, then I think the standard is pretty damn low. So I'm going to vote no.
I think I'm going to vote no.
Thank you.
Yep.
What we can certainly do is, as we transmit these measures, is we can convey the board's concern.
Yeah.
You know, But I will say, y'all ought to drive in Louisiana or South Carolina or Missouri, because Florida does pretty well compared to those states, at least.
I'd like to have different standards, and I'm glad we have it. I'm glad our FDOT has higher standards than others.
All right, are we good, Tina?
I'm good, Madam Chair. I have that at 10 to 2 with yourself and Commissioner Eggers dissenting.
Okay. All right, now we're on the draft forward Pinellas apportionment plan.
Just waiting for the presentation to come up.
What?
Here we go.
Oh.
All right, so this is coming back to you for additional discussion this month based on the comments that we heard from the board members. Some things I just want to lay out. When we reference apportionment, that's really identifying the geographic area of the MPO and then the voting membership. The apportionment plan has to be based on population ratio to some extent and improved by 3/4 of the board members upon final approval. And one other caveat that we want to put in here, because this will come up, is that 20% of the seats must be for Board of County Commissioner members, and PSTA must also have a seat on the board. So these are kind of the things that we're working on as we get into the alternatives. So in February, we first started this conversation with you, and staff proposed to split our inland seats. Our inland communities is currently made up of 6 jurisdictions that share a rotating seat. So we proposed to split that seat, add a St. Petersburg seat, and then merge the Dunedin-Tarpon seat to make it so that our North County representatives didn't have to wait so long to come up for a seat. Our board guidance at that meeting was to leave Dunedin seat as is and to come up with additional alternatives. So in March, we came back with a staff proposal to split the inland seat and add a St. Petersburg seat and put Tarpon back with the other North County local governments. The board did approve that. However, there was additional discussion about some other alternatives that could be possible. And the board did ask us in April to reconsider the apportionment plan and consider seats for other municipalities. So what's in your packet today is a series of 4 different alternatives that we wanted to present to you for discussion, and then hopefully we can take this discussion and bring it back to you for a final approval at your meeting in July. So what you see up on your screen and in your packet is this is the existing board voting structure, but we've updated this with the population, the percent of the population from the 2020 census. So with this alternative, you can see 13 members, and then you'll see the percentage of the vote that each of the member jurisdictions would have relative to the percentage of the population. So this example right here is just if everything were to remain constant, this is where we land. The first alternative would be to add a seat for the city of St. Petersburg and to divide the inland communities into 2. So you'll see that the BCC and St. Pete, those both retain 20% of the vote, and then those other jurisdictions have about 6.7% of the vote, with PSTA obviously not really having a percentage of the population, so that's why you'll see an NA in that box. And you'll see it's a little bit more closely represented with the exception of the city of Clearwater. That's still a bit underrepresented as it comes to a percent of their population. Alternative 2 keeps the same additions as Alternative 1 had, but then adds a seat for the seat of Clearwater and makes Tarpon Springs its own seat. And this is really, we looked at it from, while there is a population percentage ratio that we need to look at, we could also look at some of the traditionally underserved communities are concentrated in St. Petersburg, Tarpon, and Clearwater. So by adjusting the seats in this way, we would be able to give a little bit more representation to those communities. However, with this one, when we did the math, we realized that the BCC only having 3 seats brought their percentage down to, I believe, about 16 or 17% of the vote. So with this one, we are increasing the number of BCC seats up to 4 so that they maintain at least 20% of the voting weight on the board. And then the last alternative that we put together is if we looked at it really just based on proportionate voting. And we didn't want to look at it as a very strict proportionate voting where, you know, BCC got to exactly 28.7% of the vote and St. Pete got 26.9% of the vote. That would require a lot of math on the side. It's not impossible, but we wanted to see if there was a suggestion that got us close to proportionate voting while maintaining close to 1 or at least 0.5 of a vote for our voting members. And this is where we landed. It brings us to a total of 16 board members, with the BCC and St. Pete each having 4 votes, and much more closely aligns the voting power of each jurisdiction with the percent of the population that they have. So in terms of next steps, final board action, we really don't need it in July, so that's why, or until July. So we'd like to hear your conversation today and bring back a final alternative for approval in July. But we do have to submit a final apportionment plan to the governor by the end of 2023, and that requires us to get resolutions of support from each of the local governments within Pinellas County. So we'd like to try to keep that July timeline if at all possible. And the final plan does have to be passed by a vote of 75% of this board. And then final support will be needed from the local governments representing at least 75% of the population. So that's just a little context and some numbers to throw out at you. I have spreadsheets here on my laptop that I'm happy to play with if anyone would like to see anything else. But with that, I'd just like to open it up for some questions and conversation.
Before we turn to your questions and comments, I would just like to introduce a couple of thoughts from staff's perspective. One is that, we do look at the size of the room and the microphones and how we can handle a super large board. I think we determined that we wouldn't really have any trouble with 18 or 19 board members. We could probably do that. I think microphones were probably the biggest challenge, but we've had, like with our workshop, we had plenty of people sitting around the table. But it does get a little more unwieldy. It does make it a little bit more of a challenge to meet with you all before every board meeting. So management of board size is important. For whatever reason, before I got here, the board settled on 13, and that's been the case since roughly 2014 when the merger of the PPC and the MPO happened. So we've been working with that. I think the point I would really like to mention is that what we had tried to do with our original and second alternative staff recommendation was to recognize where the growth in the county has been happening over the last 10 years or so. And St. Pete has seen a lot of that growth. And so what we're proposed with alternative 1 now, I guess, was to reflect that increasing percentage of St. Pete's population relative to the whole county. And so they're gaining a seat, but then when we have to do the math and think about the BCC representation, now you're forced to add a 4th county commissioner to it. And it also results in an uneven board membership. I will also share with you that I've heard from at least one of the board members representing the city of Seminole that if we were going to go down the path of adding seats for cities that didn't fit the population profile of having a seat, then Seminole would like to have a seat of its own as well. He is not here today, and that's part of the reason why I didn't want to take the vote in his absence. So we would, take this when we have all the cities represented, and I believe we will in July, based on Tina's polling. So a couple of wrinkles is that this when we start adding seats and it's not perfectly proportional to population, it opens other cities that have a comparable population to say they'd like that. And while we can consider things like demographics and we can consider things like where you are in geography, that's what we tried to do when we looked originally at Dunedin and Tarpon together and Safety Harbor and Oldsmar together but separate. Geography is really not in the federal requirements for putting together an apportionment plan, and neither is land area, for instance. So those factors can't be considered. Some of you may know that Pasco County, in our regional MPO discussions, has asked for voting based on land area, and that would be in conflict. So we are fairly limited to following the population percentages. I believe alternative 3 probably gets at that most accurately, but that would require a spreadsheet. And we would have to tabulate all of those scores. And Chelsea, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what that means is we're weighting certain votes less to equal that population percentage. And that's just not a good look from my perspective. So I just wanted to point out a few concerns that I had. I feel like with alternatives 2 and 3, 3 is just not a good look of the weights, and then 2 kind of undermines the importance of St. Petersburg relative to the rest of the county.
So I have a question with regard to alternative 3. Yeah. What is 0.5 of a, I mean, how do you have a half of a person?
It would be a vote, the person would be here, but the vote would count half as much as other votes. And like I said, that's kind of problematic from a perception standpoint.
The other question I have is, if you look at the commission that's sitting here, 2 of us are countywide. And so I would venture to say that every one of these jurisdictions is also represented by 2 county, right? I mean, we look out for everybody, not just a specific demographic of a municipality or area, the entire county. So how come that isn't weighted a little more?
And I'll weigh in that with the BCC, it's a little difficult because some BCC members, of course, are countywide and some are district-based. And on a year-to-year basis, there's no real guarantee as to who would be basically nominated or assigned by the BCC to serve on the Forward Pinellas board. So lacking that predictability, it just made a little bit more sense for us to defer to the percent of the population.
In response to that, normally it's the chair that makes recommendations for the different committees or boards. And so that could be part of the responsibility of the chair, and we could take care of that in a rule or I don't know what, right? See, even David says yes.
Chelsea, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we put into the apportionment plan that one of the BCC seats would be a countywide representative?
In the initial draft, yes, we did have a carve-out that required that at least one be from a countywide seat. So there are some things that we can do to account for that, if that seems to make it more fair and make more sense.
Well, there are 3 of us. If we wanted to put those 3 on Forward Pinellas, that even adds to the strength of the commission members. I'm just saying, there ought to be some weight given to that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes?
Thank you. A couple of questions. One is regarding the options that have the BCC with 4 seats, and this could actually be a legal question, but that's a quorum for BCC, and some of the things that we take a vote on here goes next to the BCC. So has anyone checked to make sure that that's okay? If you have 4?
Yes, so we met with our legal counsel this morning, and they did not see an issue with that. They saw that the quorum and the Forward Pinellas board are 2 kind of separate issues, but they do plan to do a bit more research into that just to confirm that that won't be a problem.
Right, right, because I could see that being a bit challenging when you have a majority of the BCC voting on an item. The others see what those votes are here before you get together as a BCC to vote on the same thing. It's just, it's tricky.
I hadn't thought about it from the land use perspective, but you're right. At the MPO, we're the final authority, but for the PPC countywide plan amendments, we are a recommending body to the BCC. So
Right.
I don't know if that makes a difference, but we'll look into that.
Yeah, so just one of those little,
And I believe you have a rule at the city of St. Petersburg that you can't have a quorum of city council members on any of your committees, but that may be a city rule.
right.
I'm not sure
and-
if it's a state.
And that may apply to the city council committees. And we actually just talked about this in PSTA last week regarding the PSTA committees, because those have 5 members. Once you get to 7, you're looking at quorum with city council. We have 4 members because 5 makes a quorum. But those committees are comprised solely of those members and not representatives from all around. But it is just something I wanted to bring up. I was thinking about that. I see the challenges with alternative 3, and I'm not sure that anyone really wants to come here and be fully representative, but only having half a vote. So I'm not sure that I could support that, although I do appreciate that it is reflecting the percentage of the population more accurately than something like alternative 2. If you started with, I'm going to use Tarpon because they had been the ones that requested their own seat. If you start there and work it backwards to have a number of board members representative of the population, so 2.6 means 1 person, that would mean St. Petersburg gets 10. And I'm not sure that that's the kind of board we would want, even if we didn't have limits on how many board members you had. First of all, we don't have 10 city council members to serve. So this is really out of whack, and I appreciate that St. Petersburg in the initial proposal was given that seat, because you can see in alternative 1 that it does more closely represent our portion of the population. At this point, this one, alternative 1, is the only one that I can support. I just see the others as being flawed, as with alternative 3, or not at all in keeping with the percentage of the population. I thought that Dunedin, that there was a strong case that was made for Dunedin to have a seat. But I can't go farther than that, because as Whit mentioned, if Tarpon gets it, then we've got to have the same conversation about Seminole, and where does it stop? So it's not 1 city, 1 representative. It's supposed to be by the population, and that's what I'm going to stick to as far as how I want to vote. So I'll support alternative 1. I know we're not voting today, just giving everyone a heads up. Thank you.
Anybody else for discussion? Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alternative 3 just seems clunky. Alternative 2 seems a little unwieldy. Alternative 1 seems to be about the right balance, although it doesn't give Tarpon Springs their own seat. I'm not sure we'll be able to accomplish that goal. We just may not be able to. But I mean, alternative 1 seems to be about the right balance and manageable to me. So when you say North County in here, is that Tarpon Springs, Safety Harbor? Are there any other municipalities up there I'm missing?
Oldsmar.
Oldsmar, right. All right, so those 3.
And those seats.
Unincorporated
Mic-
Pinellas, which all of you are.
Microphone. Yeah. And I will say that, you know, we've had those rotational seats. I think they've generally worked okay. This would take everybody to 3-year terms, just a reminder. Because the 2 years, it takes a while to figure this board out. Acronyms probably take 2 years. One thing that I did is, after Tarpon Springs first approached us and made this request, and the board acted in March, and I thought we kind of had a done deal then, I wrote them a letter saying, we will do everything in our power at Forward Pinellas to, if you want us to be at every one of your your Board of Commissioners meetings, or at least once a month, we will go there. If we need to sit down with staff, we will sit down with staff on a regular monthly basis to talk about how we can include you in our plans. They can certainly come to the meeting and weigh in on any meeting. Any member of the public and elected officials are welcome to sit at the table and be part of our conversations. We certainly don't want Tarpon Springs to feel like they are not respected, not recognized, and not welcome as part of these discussions. But I think you're seeing some of the challenges we as staff have had in trying to thread the needle with the laws and also create a board that is functional and not overrepresented given the different competing population areas.
And I have been supportive of Tarpon Springs having their own seat, and I would love for them to have it. It just seems like it's going to be very difficult to get there, based on all the other things you just mentioned, but, so.
Commissioner Floyd?
Thank you, Chair. First, I just wanted to say thank you to staff, because in the last meeting, I made a comment like, yeah, if we're gonna look into adding new seats, please, like, let's, instead of just adding one, we go back to the drawing board. I see that alternative 3 is definitely going back to the drawing board. But yeah, I see why it would be a problem. So I'm not surprised to hear everybody not on board with that. But I'm grateful that you all went back and took a look and tried to allocate things. Yeah, I see it's difficult as well to try to please everybody here. I actually think it might be tricky if we have a majority of county commissioners, not for legal issues, but just, I don't know what a county commissioner schedule is like, but it might be difficult to have all 4 of them here all the time. I can see if we had 4 St. Petersburg City Council members like in alternative 3, I think it would be difficult to get all 4 here all the time. And so there's just unwieldy things about having a lot of people, especially when our population or our the amount of board members we have or council members we have is not that high compared to the population in general. But so anyway, for those reasons, I lean towards alternative 1, but I really wanted to take a second and thank staff for coming up with creative solutions to this problem. And so I'm grateful for that, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed?
Thank you. Yeah, I also appreciate you all doing that work and going back. I think actually Commissioner Scott really summed up my position and my sentiments as well. Alternative 3, still not sure how a half a vote works, and it just doesn't really seem feasible and practical. I too voted in support of Tarpon having their own seat originally, but that was before we started doing the math, and I just don't see how we can do it and make it work and have a path towards it. And I also appreciate the commitment that Whit made to hopefully allay some of the concerns that Tarpon may have with representation, and so I'm confident that he'll make good on that and really work with Tarpon so that they can feel included and represented. But just looking at the way that the math and the numbers work on it, also wouldn't have the same consideration as Councilmember Driscoll about, you have 4 of the county commissioners. I mean, that's heavy. That's a heavy weight and lots to consider. And so I'm also leaning towards alternative 1. I know we're not voting today, but I just also wanted to go on record. So thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Edgards?
Well, I'm not going to get into the numbers specifically, but I do think the points that the county commissioners were raising about county-wide folks, same thing with the district commissioners like I have. I represent Dunedin and Tarpon Springs and Safety Harbor and Oldsmar, so they're all getting additional representation. The county-wide folks get it; they're doing that, and those seats, those cities, and then all the other ones as well. So there is additional representation. The only thing, we're heading down a parallel path of looking at a regional MPO, which means that many folks will lose a voice on that regional MPO because we're going to be limited on the number of people that sit there. And again, this is still unfolding. We haven't just begun to have those conversations, probably 3-4 years away if it's going to happen. I get a little bit concerned that we, perhaps as we start to unfold the thoughts about the number of people that we need sitting around this table still isn't going to change. maybe it needs to be even larger. And that's why I'm looking at alternative 2 when you have 18 folks in the room, because again, we don't know how it's going to fall out, but this could be an advisory board of some sort, made up of a lot of different municipalities and cities that have a voice to that regional MPO. So getting more voices here, and, with all due respect, I think that, let's not get too parochial here. I mean, we may be limited by what the feds are going to approve, or whoever has to approve this is going to approve. But I mean, even on the St. Pete situation where they are now, they're at 15.4% of the vote, and they've had that for a number of years. In alternative 2, where we get more numbers, again, they're higher. They're not where they should be, and I get that. But they also currently potentially could have a PSTA appointee, not guaranteed, and you have the county commissioners that sit there, and I believe Renee Flowers represents District 7, so you have another person as well. So I just like the idea of having more people, so that when we do move, and I feel like I think it's the right thing to do, if we do move to a regional MPO, that we get people weighing in. So maybe it happens in 2 different steps, but although this has to happen, it only happens once every 10 years.
This has to happen this year. We have to send it to the governor for approval.
So if we go to that, then we could change it 10 years from now. But again, I think there'll be a lot of voices that will be lost. So anyway, I like the more people, and I understand the challenge, but the numbers on 18, if you go down through there, those smaller cities, they lose from where they are now as far as a percentage of vote. And so they're going down. City of Tarpon Springs gets representation. And, with due respect, I mean, Safety Harbor, Oldsmar, they merge a lot of conversation and discussion. They share roads, as was mentioned. Tarpon's a little bit different. Palm Harbor and Dunedin do a little of that as well, but Tarpon's just a little bit different. So anyway, just my thoughts for now. Thank you.
Mayor Boczkowski.
I agree with pretty much what everybody else has said. I think, Dave, in the future, when we do have an advisory committee, I don't think we'll be hamstrung by this federal regulation of how we pick, how we put people on here. I think part of the problem is it just sounds so easy. We want more voices, so we're just going to add more people. And according to the federal regulation, you just can't without changing the apportionment completely. And I thought what Gina said earlier, if you start with 1 for Tarpon and you get 10 for St. Pete, that might be, a little exaggerated, but not much, because it really is kind of saying what the situation is. So I also appreciate what everybody has done to go look at this stuff, and we, I think what we did here is we showed that we're listening to the people that are asking us to consider things, and we've now considered it twice.
Question, real quick.
So-
Whit,
Yes.
was this the current situation, the 13-member votes?
Can you go to the
The 13?
existing?
Was that approved by the federal government?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So-
it was approved by the governor.
Okay, well, whoever
presume
needs
the
to,
feds
whoever
too.
needs to approve it,
Yep.
that's what I'm saying. This apportionment plan, this percentage of vote based on versus the percent of population was approved. So when you look at, again, I'm just saying alternative 2, it's better. It's not ideal, but it's better than what we have now. It's more in line with the population than we have now. I'm not saying the alternative that you mentioned, 1, but I'm saying the seating that we have now. So it was approved, and I don't know that we're going to be, whatever we come up with is what we think is best. So whatever that turns out to be, I don't think we need to worry about the governor approving it, because somehow it was approved before with the numbers that are there. Was it
Councilor
what?
Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Different governor.
And just,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying different line of thinking.
Go ahead.
to be clear, and so alternative 1 this board has actually already approved that. Is that correct?
Yes, this board, in March, and then in April, the board said, let's reconsider.
Okay.
But yeah, it has been voted on once.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that
Counselor Floyd.
Real quick to Commissioner Egger's point, I actually, the percent of vote, that would have been different 10 years ago, right? So it wouldn't be the exact same numbers that we're seeing now.
Correct. This is with the updated population.
Okay. So, yeah, I see your point, yeah, but it's probably similar still, but yeah. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding. Thank you.
And just in terms, if I may, one additional comment about the timeline of things considering the regional MPO. And I'll get to that in a minute, but we're targeting 2027 if everybody agrees and we work through all the details. There may very well be county advisory committees and boards like Ford Pinellas. We're not proposing Ford Pinellas go away, so Ford Pinellas has a governing board in state statute. So that would still be a forum for input into the regional MPO. And the regional MPO could then, we wouldn't be constrained by the same state statutes because it wouldn't be the governing board of the MPO. It would be an advisory committee, and I don't think there are any real restrictions on that.
So what was that 2027 remark?
That's what the MOU says the regional MPO would be formed and starting to operate as a regional MPO.
Great sense of urgency. It's 2023. Okay. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask do we have to approve it again if we've already approved it?
Yes, based on the action that was taken at the last board meeting.
It was like an official motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Albritton,
All right, I just want to put my 2 cents in representing Clearwater.
please.
Okay, so when this was originally put together, our existing board structure, now Clearwater's grown. We're 7.7% of the vote. We have 12% of the population. So alternative one, we actually go down. We're 12.2%. We got 6.7% of the vote. So I just wanted to say I think that alternative two is better because it puts us up 11.1% of the vote with a 12.2 population. Is closer to where I am. But I tell you the truth, I don't feel like Clearwater has not had a voice here. I don't think maybe we haven't had a lot of cases that come up that really, I think I needed more support on it. But I understand that, I was for Tarpon Springs, having an extra seat. I'm for putting more people on. I think that's not going to be a detriment to us. But I'll go with whatever the board, majority of the board feels like they should do. I just wanted to bring out that. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in for Clearwater. We seem to be going downhill with the, from the existing board structure to the alternate one, so.
Yes, Gina.
I just wanted to point out that it may look like it has gone down for Clearwater because we are not seeing what the percentage of the population was when the existing structure was created. So that could help tell a more accurate story. I do wish we had the previous population percentages here so that we could be looking at apples to apples. But I wanted to point that out, that it could be that whatever that percentage of the population was higher than it is now. Thank you.
I actually do have that number, and Clearwater went from 11.7 to 12.2. So their population did increase slightly.
And yeah, you have that information, so we could have that at our next meeting or when we're going to deliberate.
Okay. Commissioner.
Forgive me
You've been
because
so quiet.
I'm new. Well, here you've opened the door. Has there been a previous consensus to move away from the existing structure?
That's a good question. We have to revisit it. We're required by law to revisit it, but there's no requirement that we change it. So we have a no-build alternative for every transportation project. This could be a no-build alternative.
Right. Well, just from what I'm hearing is, I see what we're trying to accommodate the other cities, but unfortunately, there just doesn't seem to be a way to make everybody happy. So rather than to move into a new setup, what is wrong with keeping the existing structure?
Frankly, the only thing that staff identifies as kind of problematic is the rotation of the inland communities, which has 6 different communities, so it ends up being like a 12-year span before South Pasadena comes back on the board, for instance.
Well, like what you mentioned earlier, how everybody can come to these meetings.
Sure.
And also, you're making yourself available to go to their commission meetings to hear their concerns.
Absolutely. I mean, that could be a strategy that we step up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Good discussion.
Good. All right, moving on to Director's Report. What's the spotlight update, Whit?
Okay, I'll just be real quick on some of these items. We do have a waterborne committee coming up on May 26th, I think. Is that right, Tina? Yeah, 26th. And we have been meeting individually with the local government staff from the cities of Clearwater, Dunedin, and Pinellas County. I think we still have the meetings coming up with Clearwater and Dunedin, but we did meet with Pinellas County last week. I won't go into those details because we'll cover it at the Waterborne Committee, but we are, I believe, making progress. And I hope to have some positive news on waterborne transportation coming up shortly. That's really the main one I wanted to mention. The Florida Department of Transportation is advancing, not advancing, but they are moving into construction for the US 19 corridor. The 580 to Curlew project is happening. Also, if you've noticed the construction on 19 at Gandy, the department is adding that second southbound left turn lane, and that's underway. And then we are about to begin the resurfacing project on 34th Street in the Skyway Marina District, which is tied in with our first Complete Streets construction grant award. So I think that's all I really wanted to cover under Spotlight. I would like to take a moment to go over the legislative update, and I want to acknowledge Linda Fisher of our staff, who again has done a fantastic job in keeping up on some of these things. In your packet, in your materials, you have a summary, but I'm just going to go over a couple things. Senate Bill 250 passed and is awaiting the governor's consideration. It puts an extremely broad preemption on local governments within 100 miles of where Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole made landfall. That includes much of Pinellas County, if you look at where Ian made landfall. And it prohibits local governments from adopting more restrictive or burdensome amendments to its comprehensive plan or land development regulations before October 1st of 2024. And it's retroactive to September 29th of 2022. Which looks like it's a bunch of lawsuits maybe, but local governments can't even propose changes to the land development code or comprehensive plan. So pretty much it puts a lot of local governments on hold in terms of amending their plans or land development regulations. It presumably would affect us and some of our activities. If you're giving people more ability, it doesn't stop you from doing that. But if you're doing anything that would add burdensome or restrictive regulations, and those aren't defined. So it would, that's in the eye of the beholder in many cases. So just wanted you to be aware of that one. Let's see, the Representative Tracy Coster was behind House Bill 657, which was enforcement of school zone speed limits, and also in Senate Bill 766, enforcement of school bus passing infractions. Both of those bills passed and have been presented to the governor and is awaiting his action. These bills were priorities of Ford Pinellas, and they enable the school district to opt in to establish cameras, to ticket speeding cars in school zones, but they have to be going 11 miles over the speed limit in the school zone. and it has to have a period of warnings first before you could issue tickets. And then the other bill allows school buses to have cameras to detect if anybody passes them while their stop bar is displayed. And then we have House Bill 425. I did want to mention that one. This one includes the language regarding the consolidation of the Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough MPOs. And what it does is it requires that we submit a report to the governor, the president of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House, a feasibility study exploring the benefits, cost, and process of consolidation into a single MPO. We are well ahead of this. We had no concerns about this bill because we have drafted a memorandum of understanding that is being now presented to our local government partners. It will be acted on, I hope, at the September TMA Leadership Group meeting. And then I believe all three MPOs are poised to adopt the MOU at their October or November meetings. So that would be the basis of this feasibility report to the governor, president, and House Speaker. The reason the MOU specifies July 1st, 2027 as the timeline for standing up the new regional MPO is because you have to be certified by the federal government and the state government to receive federal funds, and you have to produce a lot of documents to make yourself eligible for those funds, and it probably takes 6 months to a year to review and certify you.
Well, wait a minute, aren't we already a federally designated recipient?
We are, as is the other three MPOs, but a regional MPO does not exist. So this would be for the regional MPO, and then we would decertify the three MPOs. So there's some bureaucracy involved, is all I'm telling you.
Surprise.
Yep. But, we are continuing to work together, and we just issued a notice to proceed on the regional needs assessment that will be done on behalf of the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. So we're already coordinating, but this would be taking it to a new level, and I think we'll be all prepared for that. I'm also beginning the process of developing a budget, and my counterpart in Hillsborough is in the process of developing an apportionment plan draft for consideration. We did have House Bill 1397 by McClure concerning the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority. That passed and is awaiting presentation to the governor. Essentially, it directs the Florida Department of Transportation to explore whether dissolution of HART would create operational efficiencies and further a regional approach to transit. That opens up a lot of avenues for consideration. It does not.
The way you said it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does not take.
The way it was said, I know. But
it doesn't take off the table possible merger with PSTA, but that language was removed from the bill, so that's not in the legislation anymore. But it could also include privatization. It could include other aspects of addressing HART and its needs or issues. And then finally, House Bill 155 related to the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority passed. It dissolves TBARTA and provides for the agency's assets to be distributed back to member entities in proportion to their contribution. That'll be an interesting process of unwinding that. One thing I did want to point out related to TBARTA and the regional MPO, the regional MPO is not a substitute for TBARTA because TBARTA was never an MPO, and there are powers and duties that would be granted to a regional MPO that TBARTA never had. But it's important to note that TBARTA derived much of its revenue from local government contributions annually in proportion to population. So county, the cities of Tampa, the city of St. Petersburg, it didn't go much below that, but it was the counties in those major cities. If we stand up a regional MPO, we will need to consider similar contributions to the MPO, perhaps in proportion to population. And I've conveyed that to the county administrator. I know there is a meeting coming up on May 11th among the Pasco, Hillsborough, and Pinellas County Commission, and kudos to getting that meeting scheduled. But right now, Ford Pinellas derives its local revenue from a millage levy. In the future, I doubt we're going to have a millage levy for the regional MPO. I just don't imagine that happening. So Metroplan Orlando, for instance, has a fee that they charge to member local governments. And I believe, if I remember right, Orange County's fee is somewhere north of $500,000 annually. So if the county commission is concerned about funding coming out of its general fund, that should be something to look at, because that's been a big bugaboo with the waterborne transportation. So if we form a regional MPO, we're going to need to look at that. Now, there may be other mechanisms, but I did just want to bring up how MetroPlan, I believe Palm Beach TPA, Broward MPO, and Jacksonville, they all have that local funding commitment from their local governments. I don't know if it always comes out of general fund, but I believe it may.
Quick question. On that speed zone enforcement, or 11 miles an hour, whatever, is that just through the cameras? I mean, if there was a cop sitting there and he saw you going 5 miles, or he could still stop you.
Sure. I don't think it precludes law enforcement for taking any action.
It's just the camera version.
Right. It enables that utilization of technology. And again, it's an opt-in, so Pinellas County School District could decide not to do that. School board could decide not to do that.
The school board doesn't control the 11-mile thing. It's the law enforcement controls it, and local, it's not the school board.
They could opt in or opt out of using the technology, is all I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying,
To have cameras utilize that. Otherwise, they would rely on law enforcement being on site.
but if they opt in, the cameras are like on their property and show what people are doing? Is that what it is?
Cameras would be deployed in either select or all school zones. I don't know where they'd be placed exactly.
And who pays for that?
This does not provide any funding. It just gives you the ability to do it. So the school,
Right, but if the school has to opt in or opt out,
it'd
is
be
it the school
it'd be
paying
the-
for it?
It'd be the school board that would opt in or opt out.
And I don't see that, I mean, why would they pay for red cameras that talk about speeding when it's the local jurisdiction of where the school is located that manages all of that? That makes no sense.
I think that would have to get worked out. But presumably, it would be paid for with the revenue generated from the program.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Last thing I wanted to mention under my director's report is just the Pinellas Bayway South cycle track. And I don't know if we have a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, just this will go through pretty quickly, but just so you know where the Pinellas Bayway is, it's down there in Tierra Verde. And the Florida Department of Transportation has been working on this more or less since about 2006 or 7 when the idea was first conceived. And you'll see the roundabout that was built at Madonna Avenue. I love calling that the Madonna Roundabout, by the way. There is the trail, the multi-use trail that comes south from the Eckerd College area and goes all the way out to the Gulf beaches. And here you see the transition from the trail to an on-street cycle track. And this has now been opened. I took these pictures a few days before it was opened, but there it's protected by a concrete barrier. They had a maintenance of traffic where there was a bicycle lane open and that person was riding in the temporary bike lane. You've got green paint in the conflict zones. At the Civic Association meeting Tuesday night, we did hear some concerns about the green paint and how it's uneven and you can't rollerblade on it and it presents some hazards. The department is going to look at that. So there are some things like lighting and the texture of the pavement and the paint and potential site obstructions like you see with the sign here that the department will look at and consider as it moves forward with this, because they are trying to be responsive to the concerns. But there were about 100 people packed into the Tierra Verde Civic Association room with serious concerns about the safety of this facility because they're not used to seeing cyclists going southbound on this side of the roadway. And if it was a traditional bike lane, you'd only be going northbound on the east side and you'd be going southbound on the west side. But this is closing the gap of a bidirectional trail on the north and the south end. This is about a 1.5 mile or so stretch. And I just wanted to show you some pictures of it. I think the department has done a nice job. We have similar situations on Druid Road, the trail that is parallel to Druid Road in Clearwater. That has many driveways and people go bidirectional on that. The Duke Energy Trail crosses many driveways and people go bidirectional on that. And I think you have that in other areas. The department has not heard or seen a large number of crashes or injuries related to their two-way cycle track operations in Tampa, Hillsborough County. They have them on Jackson Street. They have it on Nuccio Parkway. I believe it's been introduced on, is it Fowler? Is Fowler two-way? Maybe not Fowler. Not Fowler. But there are other locations. And so I think, my recommendation would be to let this stand for a few months, maybe a year, and evaluate it and see if it needs to be retrofitted in the future. There will be a longer discussion of this at our July meeting where the department will come back and present their data and analysis and why they arrived at this conclusion and their thoughts on it. You will hear from the Tierra Verde residents who would like this to be returned to a one-way northbound bicycle facility because of the potential conflicts. And I just wanted the board to be aware of it and see some of the images. And if you have any questions of me, it was a very heated meeting. There were a lot of upset people, but I think the department built this in response to their earlier concerns about the trail affecting their landscaping. And so this was an alternative that I understand the Civic Association supported in 2018 or 2019, but now that they see the reality of it, they're less than thrilled.
Okay, could I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
Because I think I heard you say the regional meeting was May 11th. It's May 12th,
May 12th, I'm sorry, it's a Friday, yes.
just for clarification.
And that's all I have, Chair.
Oh, really?
One quick thing, did you say that DOT was installing temporary cameras out there?
Yes, temporary counters, that was the question. We are working with the department to see if we can quantify the usage of this facility, and we do have portable bicycle pedestrian counters that are available in the district. And yeah, I don't know if they've committed, but I think they're very willing to set those up and monitor the conditions. And certainly we're going to look at crash data and any instances of conflicts that happen.
Okay. So for the good of the order, I guess we're ready to adjourn, right? I believe so. And are we moving from right here into the executive committee?
We will, yes.
All right, so for those of you on the executive committee, don't leave. We have another, little meeting right after this one here. So just stay right here. And for everybody else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Really good discussion.